your Chargers linebacker, Daiyan Henley, and you're tuning in with Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dale Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. If this is your first time tuning into the show, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Dan Wolkenstein. Happy 4th of July weekend, sir. We
made it. Happy 4th of July.
We are T-minus 3 weeks until football really starts becoming real again. 3 weeks until training camp. Can't get here soon enough. But we got a lot to talk about today. Rookie expectations, Dan. And I know in some form or fashion, we haven't really talked about them as much since April, since the end of the 2026 NFL draft. But we're going to go into a lot of rookie expectations for 2026, not necessarily predicting to say, X player is going to have this kind of stat for this year. We're not going that far with it. But what we are going to really dig into is how many players of the 2026 NFL draft class for the Chargers are going to have an impact this upcoming season. And believe it or not, you might think that there's going to be some heads turning for a number of these guys because history tells us over the past 2 years under the Joe Hortiz regime that it has done similar things like that. So a lot to be excited for. Welcome to everybody who is joining the show on a Thursday night. As Dan always likes to mention, what is everybody drinking? What's your poison? What's your poison? Is it a nice cab for whatever you're having for dinner wherever you are right now? If you're like me, I would be doing a nice little, sip of the bourbon with a nice filet steak right now. That sounds like a good dinner. Probably something that's going to be in my future here in the next couple of days over 4th of July weekend. Dan Wolkenstein, normally when we are doing these live shows, it's early in the morning. You get your coffee and your caffeine going. It's not that right now. So is there any fuel that you're currently using for this podcast?
Look, Barry LaCroix, if you will. That's the best fuel I have. And honestly, I wish I had something stiffer because it has been a day. Folks who, I don't know if y'all want some nostalgia in your life, your boy's rocking an iPhone 7 right now.
Oh, this can't have a story.
How small this puppy is.
Explain.
Long story short, don't put your phone in your pocket before you take your toddler to his swim class. And then remember that it was in your pocket after the swim class is over, or else you'll have to be using your 11-year-old phone that you somehow still got to turn on. It's a whirlwind over here, but
where did you
in my
find
pocket?
It, by the way? No.
In my pocket.
The iPhone 7 is what I'm talking about.
Literally, okay. We found it in the door of my car because at one point we gave it to our toddler as like a day to take pictures randomly. And like there was no phone attached. So I was like, here, use it as a camera. And then she brought it in the car seat one day. She took some pictures, then it died. And that's it.
Now we have to go back further. Where did you find the iPhone 7 to when you originally gave it to your daughter to watch videos on? Like the fact that you still had that is incredible in itself.
So that's more my wife. I don't know where it was originally. I want to say it was like I think everybody has like that bag of electronics that you like don't know what to do with, right? Like
I get that.
The USB port, that one like digital camera you had, your iPod Nano, a shuffle maybe was in there. Like it was in that bag with all the accessories. And thank goodness, because I don't know, man. Enough about my craziness. Needed this episode today, honestly. This is a fun one. And Jake, you mentioned it, like this Chargers team has like hit pocket aces 2 years in a row, it feels like. And you fast forward to this year, could they do it again? Like, what are the actual expectations of this class compared to the bar that was set these past two? I don't want to be a pessimist, but it's going to be very hard.
It's not the regular season yet, so you don't have to be a pessimist yet. It's too early to be a pessimist.
You're right. But it's going to be hard to keep that bar as high as it's been. But we'll get through all of that today. So excited to go through the rookies and kind of go through expectations and compare to what we've seen in the past. Jake, how are you this fine Friday Eve?
I'm very good, sir. It's actually been a nice week, after vacation last. It's a nice like little 1-2 punch of a 2 weeks. You come back from Palm Springs after a nice like short week last week, and now you get to drive right back in to another short week with it being 4th of July. No work for me tomorrow, thankfully, as it probably is for a lot of folks that are out there celebrating 4th of July. So it's always a good opportunity to talk football with you and everybody who's in the chat. So I'm looking forward to this conversation, Dan, because it really has felt like forever that we've had a conversation that has really centralized around this Chargers rookie class like this for the last couple of months. And, as we know, we've talked about position battles, the depth of this roster thus far leading into training camp, how they have really just done such a good job over the last couple of years building from the bottom up and really just rounding out this roster so well. But now let's really get into the nitty gritty of it, Dan. Let's get our hands dirty and let's talk about this rookie class that's coming up. Because remember, Chargers rookies are going to be the first ones that report to training camp in just over 3 weeks. So a lot of expectations as it relates to this team. Honestly, when you look at what Joe Ortiz has done over the past 2 years with this rookie class, I think there's a trend that's a brewing, Dan. When you come away from the Brandon Staley era that was mainly giving favor to veterans, and your roster was completely different, and it was top heavy with talent, and there wasn't enough depth to subplant when injuries happened. You move away from Tom Telesco, Brandon Staley, you bring in Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh, and over the last 2 years, now heading into year 3, that whole philosophy and output and result on the field has changed dramatically for the better. So I think it's fair to say that there's a number of draft picks for the Chargers that can come in and make an impact. Again, we're not going to go as far as to say we're going to predict to say that Brendan Thompson's going to go over 1,000 yards or anything like that. No, we're simply going to ascertain the impact that these players are going to be making on the field this year, and it should make for a good conversation.
But Jake, before we get to that, now that I got a new phone, I got to freaking buy. We got to pay the bills, and hopefully these bills cash in because your boy knows how much these freaking iPhones are these days. Can you please help us talk about our friends over at FanDuel? Get us paid.
Yes, I can. It's a good line for today, considering the fact that we're talking about the rookies. But the betting does not stop for the NFL, even in the offseason. And FanDuel gives you plenty of ways to stay in the action with NFL futures. Because one bet that the Chargers fans should be paying attention to, rookie defensive lineman Mekhi Becton is currently sitting at plus 14 odds to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. So if you believe that Mekhi Becton is ready to make an immediate impact, which we'll talk about that in a minute, and become the next breakout star for the Chargers, now might be a time to get in before those odds start moving. Make sure to use the promo code ChargersLAFB for your chance to win at FanDuel, and let them know that Chargers Unleashed sent you.
So, how quickly we forget the troubles that were brewing for Chargers NFL draft. I don't know why my microphone muted.
That's all right. I'm glad it was you and not me. I was trying to figure out that I just lose audio. This is what happens always on a live show. If you don't notice. It's always the live shows where things go down like this.
It is. But I think it's how quickly we forget, going back to the Telesco days and Brandon Staley days or before that, we're not used to these kinds of nice things that we're seeing these days. And so hitting at the rate that they've been hitting on this past 2.5 seasons,
it's pretty good.
That's very hard to keep up, right? It just is. You look at the Joe Alt, Lad McConkey pairing. Don't forget the Tar Heap Still, the Cam Hart. Mm-hmm. You got the Kamani Vidal in there too. That's a lot of folks getting money, right? Getting impactful playing time. And you look at last year's class, like it's tough. And then this year, I will say, like, the one thing about this year's class too is, I think round 1, I feel pretty good about. Round 2, that's a variable for sure. But then after that, there's a lot. I mean, you could be hopeful and optimistic and think that they're all going to be fantastic, but we shall see. That's basically how we're feeling. I mean, aside from Akeem Mesidor, I think Jake Slaughter is going to have a pretty big impact this season. But other than that, I don't know. I mean, how bullish are we on Brennan Thompson? I mean, I think all of us like Brennan Thompson, and we're hearing flashes of Genesis Smith, right? We're hearing about the offensive tackle that was brought in, the swing. It's easy to just get sucked into it, right? But this year's class just feels a little different in terms of you got the edge guy who's ready now. And then after that, it's on the coaches, in the comments. It's on the coaches. And so, I don't know, Jake, where do you want to start with this one?
As you were kind of touching on, Dan, let's just take a trip down memory lane over the last 2 years to really just kind of talk about the genesis, no pun intended, of this conversation. Let's go back to 2024. First season for Joe Ortiz and Jim Harbaugh. Let's go through this class and let's talk about just the amount of players in it that made an impact. And then just to be fun, I'm going to compare the year prior and maybe the year prior.
Which honestly, the year prior may have been Tom Telesco's best draft. Looking back.
True, but it took us 10 years to get there. It took us 10 years to get there.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
So first draft under the Joe Ortiz, Jim Harbaugh era, Joe Alt, who was a controversial pick enough of it in itself when that pick was selected. Because
remember the Malik Neighbors,
Joe Alt, everything, the whole hubbub that everybody was in at that point in time. I think that
Marvin Harrison, the Arizona Cardinals, shanked the field goal. Jake's pissed.
Yes.
It was.
Yeah. I think it is no secret how big of an impact that Joe Alt made during his rookie season and how much he was missed last year during that period of time with an injury. Ladd McConkey in round 2. This was the first year that you didn't have Keenan Allen on the roster. Ladd McConkey replaced him in spades and had a terrific rookie year. That'll be the goal to get him back to 2024 form this season. Junior Colson, who I feel if has either been healthy or if certain cards just didn't fall his way, I feel like this could have been a bigger impact talking about it right now. And now we're in the conversation of, it's crucial for him. It's crucial for him. Justin Eboigbe is an up-and-coming defensive lineman who we have talked about, especially during the last show that we did, that there's big expectations for him going into this season with the rotation. Obviously, you move on from certain players like Deshaun Hand. There's going to be a much bigger role carved out for not only him, but another player that we'll talk about that was selected in last year's draft. Tarheeb Still, Cam Hart. Dan touched on it a little bit. You talk about those type of selections for two fifth-round picks that, because of injury, were thrown into the fire at the early part of the 2024 season. And because of coaching, because of how good Steve Klingscale is, look at how quickly the development happens with both of those guys and the impacts that they were able to make. And then Kamani Vidal, I don't think you could say that he proved his worth more than he did last season. When you have Najee Harris go down early in the season, then Omarion Hampton follows shortly afterward. Kamani Vidal carried the banner for the Chargers running game, or lack thereof, because it was so bad so many times in the season. And it not because of him, because your offensive line was ripped to shreds. But Kamani Vidal gave you a run game when essentially there wasn't a run game to give last year, and did an incredibly valuable job for him. So just go through those. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. You had 9 total picks, actually, in that 2024 draft, and you had 6 players in 2024 that ended up making an impact for you. Dan, now.
I mean, that's wild, honestly. And then if you think about it, like, Aboigbe, like, is coming on. And of all the people in that draft class, like, I'm still shook that is Junior Colson that is currently, without seeing him on the field much, like, he's the bust of that class, which is shocking to say. You hope for the come up. But other than Junior, it's 2 7th round. I think they were both 7th round. With Brendan Wright
and Cornelius Johnson were the final 2 picks of that class. Mm-hmm. Then still pretty good to have 6 guys in a single class that made an impact for you one way or another. Tom Telesco never had anything like that.
And then, like, remember this, like, Joe Alt, like, came in and immediately with a top 5 tackle on the right side immediately. And I think it was Jim Harbaugh talking about him being a future Hall of Fame player, like, right off the bat. McConkey goes ballistic. Like, the dude was unstoppable. Tarheeb Still, Cam Hart were like steals of the draft. Remember the trades that even got to the guys that they have in that draft. They wouldn't have had Ladd or Tarheeb if they hadn't traded that pick with the Patriots, which, shout out. I mean, that's impact. And then you fast forward to 2025. Omarion Hampton, nails. Tre Harris, nails. Jamari Caldwell, nails. Kyle Kennard, TBD. That's the Aboigbe trains that we're hoping for. TBD. KLS, flashes. Love it. Aronde Gadsden, bald. RJ Mickens, what, the top 3-4 coverage grades for all safeties, granted limited sample size. And then Branson Taylor, who they're still high on. Triquez Bridges, didn't make it. Kyle Kennard, TBD. Otherwise, aside from Branson Taylor, everyone balled out again.
Dan, again, look at
you mentioned the 2024. You mentioned 2024 or 2023. What was that draft class for Telesco?
His best class, you mean?
That was arguably his best, and that was with Quentin, Tuli.
I got you. Hang on, just so we're not wrong. Quentin Johnston, pick number 1. Tuli, who's obviously proven himself. Daiyan Henley, round 3. Then it was Darius Davis, Jordan McFadden, Scott Matlock, and Max Duggan. Remember, that was 3 TCU players you drafted in a single draft. That again, it took 10 years for Telesco essentially to really make something work, especially in the 3rd round. That was the only draft that he had a 3rd round pick, the cursed 3rd round pick that we were all holding our breaths for whenever Tom Telesco would make the call. He finally got one right after 10 years.
I mean, honestly, the craziest part is that was arguably the best draft haul that Tom Telesco has gotten in days 1 and 2. Now, they didn't happen at first year, but
Dan, would you believe that there's only one player right now that still remains on this roster from the 2022 draft class?
Oh boy, that is less than ideal.
Less than ideal.
And that is the opposite of how you build a competitive roster, right? Like, you try to keep.
Pardon me. There's 2. My fault. There's 2. It is Jamari Sawyer and it is Dean Leonard. But you went from Zion Johnson, no longer on the team, JT Woods, round 3. Isaiah Spiller, round 4. Remember, this was the draft that you traded away your 2nd round pick in order to get Khalil Mack. So I guess if you count that as a draft pick and a win, fine. I don't, but it is what it is. Zion Johnson, JT Woods, Isaiah Spiller, Tito, no longer on the roster. Jamari Sawyer in round 6. Jasir Taylor was around 6 right after that. Then you had Dean Leonard in round 7, Xander Horvath to round it out in round 7.
So realistically,
a 6th and a 7th round pick in 2022 is all that remains from that draft class.
And if you think about it, like Zion, tons of potential, but being a first round selection, he ended up being an average guard for this Chargers team. And that's not shots fired. I'm just saying, like, that was
for the expectations for a individual who was drafted 17th overall in 2022, the output that you were expecting should have been better in that time frame.
So let's call second round. Let's call second round a hit with Khalil Mack. Sure. JT Woods, no. Isaiah Spiller, no. Tito, while he showed flashes, injured quite a bit and never really produced no longer on the team, so no. And then you got Xander Horvath, who, I mean, as a fullback. And then you got special teams for Jasir Taylor and Dean Leonard. That's your entire draft class.
Yeah. We could make a whole episode if we wanted to recap the
this is fun
garbage track record of Tom Telesco through 10 years as it relates to building up through the draft. But we're not going to do that because it's about the future. And as Dan was pointing out, as it relates to the 2025 class, between 2024 and 2025, 11 rookies, 11 have made an impact for you already. 6 in 2024, and you could take Omarion Hampton, Tre Harris, Jamari Caldwell, Oronde Gatson, and RJ Mickens as of the ones right now definitively that have made an impact for you. And as Dan said, Kyle Kennard's going to get a big jump and an opportunity to make a difference. Same thing for Keandre Lambert-Smith. I'm excited to see the possibilities for KLS in a Mike McDaniel-led offense. Same reasons that I'm going to be excited for Brendan Thompson in that same vein. But still, to say right now, in 2 years, to have that many rookies, 11, that have one way or another made an impact for you, it's great just from the standpoint of trusting your front office, trusting your coaching, and ultimately to know that those draft picks, one way or another, are not getting wasted. And Dan, I guess you could add the undrafted rookie that made the biggest impact last year, Nico Reed. Ended up playing in 5 regular season games, had one of the best pass breakups you're going to see against Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers last year, had a fantastic preseason for him. And again, let's not forget, the Chargers did not sign a cornerback in free agency, didn't draft one in April. I fully believe that they are expecting a big jump from him in this defense next year.
So a lot of them.
It's going to be interesting, but again, you have to tip your cap to the front office, and that's what makes this conversation now, talking about 2026, so exciting. So, Dan, let's dig into this class, and let's start off with the Chargers' first-round pick, 22 overall, Mr. Akeem Mesidor, edge out of Miami. You move on, obviously, from Odafe, and now you bring in Akeem Mesidor to pair with Khalil Mack and Tuli to have another 3-headed monster at the edge position for a guy who I don't care, and I've said it plenty of times and more times than I can remember, I do not give 2 shits about what his age is. Maybe 3 shits. You've heard the exact same type of things from defensive coordinator Chris O'Leary and other coaches and players that talk about him. He's polished and ready to go right now. And even if you go all the way back to the very first day that he arrived at the Chargers facility and got a chance to just say hello to Khalil Mack for the first time, the eagerness that was on Akeem Mesidor to get out on the field and start training, getting to work, the motivation that he has, the polish and experience that he already has, he is pro ready as it stands right now. This is not like getting a traditional first-round edge rusher. Now, obviously, you have your blue chip ones at the top of the draft that immediately obviously make an impact. But for getting a guy at 22, especially when you had other edge rushers go off the board before him, it's a perfect scenario for a player like him coming into this to learn under Khalil Mack, to learn alongside Tuli, and to get his feet wet in this type of a system when he is just simply a disruptor. And give him whatever you want as it relates to an offensive lineman trying to block him. He has so many different ways to get past or go through offensive linemen to get after the quarterback. He is just explosive, has just a, as they like to say, the motor that does not quit on Akeem Mesidor. And to have him as your edge 3, essentially, in this defense, I really don't think that you're going to miss much of a beat if we're talking about the comparisons of having the Odafe Owehs on the field with Khalil Mack and Tuli to say, I don't think you're going to lose much at all moving from Odafe to Akeem Mesidor here. And believe me, Chris O'Leary is still going to take the page out of Jesse Minter's playbook on getting these 3 guys on the field at the same time and kicking Khalil Mack inside and having those 2 edges scream off the outside. The expectations for Akeem Mesidor, I think, are maybe just should be a little bit more bullish because of the opportunity that he's going to get in the system and the players that are around him.
So I'm super bullish on Akeem Mesidor, and I'll take the over on most of those that want to bet on Akeem Mesidor stuff. You go back to last year, Tuli balled out, 13 sacks. Odafe Oweh gets traded at the deadline, gets 7.5 sacks in half a season. Khalil Mack balled out. He had 5.5, was on IR, or else he probably would have ended up with close to 10. Odafe Oweh is not there anymore. You bring in Mesidor. You add Chris O'Leary, who, by the way, we're hearing he's a little bit more aggressive than Jesse Minter was. You talk about polished, pro-ready. He has all the attributes to contribute right away. I mean, I think he mentioned he's like 6th in Rookie of the Year for defensive players this year. I'll put the line. 7.5 sacks. Over under.
What did Tuli have in his rookie year? Was it 5.5? I think that he ended up logging when he was the 3rd rotational guy between Bosa and Mack at that point in time. I want to say it was 5.5, and it may be more, but something's telling me it was about 5.5.
4.5 sacks, 2 forced.
It was 4.5. So, and then look at the jump that he makes when when Joey Bosa is not there. And the biggest questions about Tuli was, okay, well, how can he set the edge? Because his entire bread and butter has been about, as a pass rusher getting after the quarterback, how can he stack up against the run? And he was great. And then he puts on those type of numbers on top of it. It's, again, here we go with the development once again, where you can look at set the expectations for whatever you want inside of your head for what Akeem Mesidor is going to do. Now add in the Mike Elston factor and think about that for a second. Is that going to help? You better believe it.
Yeah, and James Heritage 4224 in the comments. Great point. He's been high on Ortiz, but it does also have to be considered how important the Harbaugh hire has been with all the top tier assistants he's brought in. 100%. Like that I think that is the unspoken obviousness, but we'll bring it up. Yes. This doesn't happen without Harbaugh getting the most out of his assistants and his coaching staff and these players. Like, obviously. And Harbaugh handpicked Joe Ortiz. Like, this was his selection. But Joe Ortiz still could have ended up like a Tom Telesco or whoever and not hit on their draft picks. Again, we talk about Batman and Robin on the offseason and during the season. Like, offseason's his. I'm sure Jim Harbaugh has a voice, obviously. But you hear all the things that they've talked about coming from Baltimore, like the blue chips and all, It's hard not to get excited about this year when you start looking at them individually, right? Like, if you look at them in totality, this year's draft class, you can get a little like, I don't know where it's coming from. But then when you look at it in context, and real quick, we'll go through Akeem Mesidor, round 1, Jake Slaughter, round 2. Then round 4, Brennan Thompson, Travis Burke, who a lot of people are excited about, Genesis Smith, Nick Barrett, Alex Harkey, and Logan Taylor. That was the draft class. Now, if you look at players that we've heard of so far this offseason during camp, Jake Slaughter is, in the mix, if you will. Genesis Smith, honestly, looks to be really good. Like, he has the instincts that I think you want to have next to Derwin James. Brennan Thompson's got speed for days. And pair that with Mike McDaniel, it's like match made in heaven. The offensive line has been so atrocious that it's hard to believe Travis Burke isn't going to be better than what it was last year, if he even plays. But that's the question is, and it goes both ways. Because while one could praise Joe Ortiz for hitting on so many draft selections over the years, you could also add in the other perspective of, like, was the team that bad that he brought in that was there before he came in to where that many rookies can beat out that many players already on the roster? And both things are probably a little true, right? Like, there's probably truth in both. But then you fast forward to this year. Jake, you and I have talked about it. This is probably the deepest we've seen this Chargers roster that I can remember since the LT Gates days. I'll put that. How many opportunities are there for these rookies to make an impact this season, like we've seen in years past with Joe Ortiz's class? That's not a shot at the rookies. It's just kind of a pat on the back to Joe Ortiz with how this roster has evolved. And so when you hear some of our answers, like, it might sound like we're being negative, but it's also a testament to the roster that is constructed to where these guys are really going to have to go crazy to even sniff a shot for half these players that were drafted this year. So other than Akeem Mesidor, this is where I think it starts to get interesting. Jake Slaughter, for example, great player. Jake's been high on him for 2 years now. Has been widely regarded as the top center in the class. They drafted him to be a guard. By the way, like 9.9 something RAS score, crazy athletic, tailor-made for a Mike McDaniel system. Is he going to start?
Yeah, I think he's going to start. It's funny when you look at the whole draft crop and mainly the 5 guys that we're going to highlight during this show, that Jake Slaughter pretty much is the only player that we're going to talk about that has a legitimate chance to be getting starter snaps right from week 1. And honestly, was it a controversial pick at the time in some circles? Yes, it was. Is it going to be a seamless transition for him moving from center to left guard? No, there's going to be some hiccups and some growing pains. I'm not going to be oblivious to that and say that this guy is going to be an all-pro right out of the gates. But it's what Dan alluded to there that is the X factor and the elevator to this, is it works for what Mike McDaniel wants to do in his scheme. If you go back and you just watch some highlights of Aaron Brewer, the Miami Dolphins center, very similar playing characteristics as far as what Jake Slaughter is able to do athletically. And it's about getting to the second level, especially when we're talking about, coming into a zone type of blocking scheme. And the athleticism and the play IQ that Jake Slaughter puts out on the field is second to none. I know some people don't particularly like his style of blocking, and that's okay. He's going to find a way to make this work. And I'm talking about both Jake Slaughter and Mike McDaniel in this circumstance. Oh, and by the way, I like the fact that Dan was talking about how he dropped the line of basically saying the previous regime, was it really that bad behind closed doors? Look at some of the comments that were made when Mike Delvin was shown the door. There were some things said that maybe we as fans had our own personal perspective on, opinions on, about Greg Roman, Mike Devlin, and maybe that was masked from just how terrible the offensive line looked like. But when those firings ended up taking place, and then you hear the comments start to fly, that's part of the problem. There was an underlying problem between coach and player in there. And when those things happen, you're not going to get a good result on the field. And now just listen to the way that you hear guys like Slaughter, Slater, Alt, Cole Strange talk about the mentality that Butch Berry has brought into that room. Moving into a new system, whereas Rashawn Slater likes to say, just get off and go obliterate the guy across from you. Dan likes to say this, because we're so accustomed to PTSD and because that offensive line was so bad last year, it might take a little bit to just wrap around the head to convince yourself that there's so many different factors that are heading into this year that are going to be a benefit, not just for Jake Slaughter, but for the offensive line as a whole. Number one, do I think that Jake Slaughter, outside of his own individual traits and play that he's going to be able to put out, is going to benefit by having a guy like Rashawn Slater next to him play to his left? Yeah, I do. Do I think that it's going to benefit him having a much better center that is not that is not Bradley Bozeman, but Tyler Biadasz standing to his right? Yes, I think that that's going to benefit him as well. It's going to be a force multiplier in that circumstance. But
overall, also, Jake, I think it's important to call out though. Like, this is if he could beat out Coyote, right? Like, who's impressed. Do I think that he ultimately will? Probably. I mean, if I was a betting man, I'd probably say yes. But like, it's not his job right now.
It's not, and that's totally fair to say. I don't think the expectations to say in late May, early June, to say, okay, it should be Slaughter out there getting first team reps, which, by the way, he's also been rotating between second team and first team. So let's not forget that. So you do have to have a ramp up period for a very unique situation like this. So if anybody was expecting that right out of the gate, bless you. I think when we get to the end of this month, though, and the pads start coming on, I think you're going to find out very quickly, who the starting five is going to be.
Now, I will say, if/when Jake Slaughter does end up starting, well, first off, let's say he doesn't.
Okay.
That's still a brilliant selection in terms of impact on this team long term.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's a guard or center.
Talk about it.
Like, we've seen centers come who have been great and then they get hurt and then you're screwed. We've seen centers who end up starting out great and then fade fast. We've seen bad centers. Like, having two quality centers on your roster is good business. But then, let's say he does make it to guard first year. The things he's got going for him that are going to help him a little bit, just a little bit. The guy next to him, the other guy next to him, the quarterback behind him, the running back behind him, the offensive coordinator calling shots, the head coach, all making it work for him. Like, he's got a pretty cush surrounding, if you want to be honest here. Like, think about it. Think about what he's going into, right? You talk about like the Akeem Mesidor situation where he gets to go in as a third edge rusher. He gets to be like, he's a little older. He's more polished. He's working hand in hand with Khalil Mack and like, he's got it all made. I mean, you get to sit between, let's see, you're going to be sitting between Rashawn Slater, most likely, and Tyler Biotish is where you'd be slotted. And then behind you, Keaton Mitchell, one of the best fullbacks in the NFL, and Omarion Hampton. And then you got Mike McDaniel calling the plays. Like, it's pretty cush landing. Even if he wasn't that great, the guys around him are going to make him look a lot better than he probably is, honestly. And so...
What was the biggest storyline that we were talking about when it came to the offensive line at this point last year? It was the Chargers are going to give Daiyan Johnson reps at center, and it's going to be between either him or Bradley Bozeman. You fast forward, you feel like the damn Chargers hit the lottery. There's 14 offensive linemen that they've now put on their roster. And as Dan said, you've got 2 quality centers on your roster, even though one of them is going to play left guard, but you have a long-term solution when the day comes if Tyler Biotish is no longer on this roster. So you've set yourself up pretty damn good, I'd say, in a season. Talk about learning from your mistakes. I'd say that they had to learn a hard lesson last year, as did, unfortunately, Justin Herbert, and unfortunately us watching the game. But it feels pretty damn good to be talking about, only really one offensive line spot is up for grabs as opposed to all 5. Because essentially they changed out your interior 3 and you have the return of your all-pro left and all-pro right tackles.
Real quick, in the comments. Because Keaton Mitchell being one of the best fullbacks in the NFL wasn't on my bingo card. Way to not correct him. Go back and check the tape, Mr. Mighty 2399. I'm pretty sure what I had said was you've got Keaton Mitchell, then there's a comma. One of the best fullbacks in the NFL, not spoken, was Alec Ingold, comma, and then Omarion Hampton. I did not say one of the best fullbacks in Keaton Mitchell. Check the tape. I might be rusty, but I'm not that rusty. All that to say, if Jake Slaughter does get to starting, again, the 2 caveats. If he starts, and if the guys around him stay healthy, yes, check that box. I think you're 2 for 2. Keem Mesidor, Jake Slaughter. So then you move forward. No round 3 selection. Remember this. Then round 4, everyone got excited. Everybody got excited, especially when this guy's name got called. Brennan Thompson gets selected. Fastest player in the draft. But again, Tre Harris, Quentin Johnston, Lad McConkey, Aronde Gadsden, David Njoku, Omarion Hampton, and hell, Justin Herbert's legs. Probably all stack rank higher than he does in targets. So I guess it depends on how you define impact. So I would define impact like, will we see a bigger impact this year than we saw from either of the rookies last year at wide receiver? Will we see more impact from him than Tre Harris or KLS? Again, impact, not potential, not flashes, but just go back and look at the numbers. Yes, he was great in pass or in run blocking. Tre Harris was. KLS had a few stellar grabs for touchdowns, but if you go back and look at the total numbers, wasn't that crazy. Will Brennan Thompson have a bigger impact than either of those 2 this year? What do you think?
To answer one of your questions, I think that Tre Harris will have a bigger impact than Brennan Thompson this year.
But however, I'm saying Tre Harris rookie season, Brennan Thompson rookie season is what I'm saying. Because we look back and say Tre Harris was a hit, right? We say you nailed it, great pick. But look at the numbers.
Here's why I would say that it's an unfair comparison. Brennan Thompson in a Mike McDaniel offense is like match made in heaven. It's the same reason why I'm extremely excited to see KLS in a Mike McDaniel offense. The fact that we got a chance to see Tre Harris make the impact the way that he did in a Greg Roman offense is actually remarkable, all things considered. So I expected the jump from Tre, and especially after you've heard some comments early on in the offseason that Mike McDaniel has said about Tre Harris, he's going to get so many more opportunities to make an impact. And the fact that Tre is going to be, he is a more versatile weapon than Brendan Thompson is because of the routes, because of his capability of handling inside, outside, the contested catch, which obviously was a big thing for him at Ole Miss. Go and watch the highlights of that if you, want to reminisce on some great Tre Harris play. But Brendan Thompson, as it stands right now, it's going to be go. What was the first thing that we said when Brendan Thompson was the selection for the Chargers? Justin Herbert can load up the howitzer again. In a Mike McDaniel offense with a wide receiver that has this type of speed, everybody's been yearning for that essentially since Herbert's rookie year when it was, bombs away. You can now get a glimpse of that to say Brendan Thompson, KLS, can be your downfield threats when you have those certain type of packages. Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey, Tre Harris to complement those in the versatility that they've shown in their route running over the last few years. It's going to be such a diverse wide receiver group, and the way that Mike McDaniel is going to dial these things up to play to each player's strengths is going to be fantastic. Again, we have to remember the offense that was out there last year, take away the offensive line, Justin Herbert having to stay alive for enough time to throw to those wide receivers. It's still insane the fact that the Chargers were able to move the ball at all. Mike McDaniel, with this group of wide receivers, specifically talking about Brendan Thompson, let's not forget, Brendan Thompson, during his college career, had just over a 39-yard average in his touchdown catches. You've seen him beat that coverage.
Touchdown catch, yeah.
You've seen him beat that coverage at Mississippi State. It's all hands on deck as it relates to him. Just go and catch. Find the ball, catch the ball, go to the end zone. And you're going to play in an offense with one of the best arms in the entire league in Justin Herbert. Do I think that there's going to be plenty of opportunities for him to get those in this offense? I do. Do I think that he's going to come out and set the world on fire? No, because there's only one football. And as Dan was just talking about, think of all the playmakers that have been added in a single offseason offensively from wide receiver, tight ends, running backs, what have you. I'm even of the thought process that you may not see 1,000-yard wide receiver for this group specifically because of that fact. Like, pick your poison. Where are you going with the football? You got so many options.
But I keep going back to this. Oh, talk about a stutter. How are we defining impact for Brendan Thompson?
Are you asking like to put a stat line to that to say impact?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. Like when we say he's going to be impactful this season, to where like check the box as an impactful draft class. Like what does
he's going to make if things are going to be dialed up for him the way that they should to play against his strengths, to say, Justin Herbert, you find number 89 and you go downfield, you're going to give opposing defenses something else to think about. In the same vein that defenses had to think about Tyreek Hill when Tyreek Hill was at his prime, when he was either when he was at Kansas City or Miami. It doesn't matter.
I mean, it's like the Tuli hockey assist. Like the numbers might not be there, although he still had 13 something sacks. Like the impact in how many sacks he gave others was through the roof. And Mighty, come on, hold on. I was not getting upset. I'm more just, I think I know what I said, but I'll check the tape. I will go back afterwards and I will check to see how it was said.
No fighting, kids. That's not what we're here for tonight.
It's all love here. I was just saying, I was like, pretty sure. That's all good. I got someone saying that I did say it the way I thought I said it, but we'll see. It doesn't matter. For the record, Alec Ingold is our fullback. Keaton Mitchell and Omarion Hampton and Kamani Vidal, depending on who you're talking to. Thank you, Mighty 2399. It ain't no big deal. It ain't no thing.
I'll take responsibility for it.
Thank you, Jake.
Because I didn't
Your
correct
fault.
it, but if I'm being perfectly honest, I wasn't even listening to you, Dan. So there you
Thank
go.
you. See, you and 287
That's
folks
why
are not
I
listening to me.
correct.
It's all good. All right, moving on. So Brennan Thompson aside. So okay, do you have him as check the box? Yes. So are we 3 for 3 so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So then moving forward, Genesis Smith is the next one on the list. In context, again, this is where it gets tough. This is not discounting Genesis Smith. I think he's a stud. I think he has great potential. Do I think that he's going to outperform Tony Jefferson, Derwin James, RJ Mickens, Elijah Molden? Ugh. That's tough. Like, how are they going to get on the field? Now, I know they rotate folks in a ton. Totally. But that safety group is pretty stacked right now. So who's he going to be?
Stacked. It's very stacked.
Who is he beating out?
Mighty, we love you, by the way. We appreciate you joining the show and all the support.
Dude, Mighty, I'm totally... This is not a thing. I was more just enjoying it.
Dan, when I look at Genesis Smith, could I see again, we're talking about two guys that they're not far off as far as what they were good at in college. However, Genesis Smith was a ball hawk. Does he have tackling to work on? Yes, that's been the biggest question mark for him. But do I see him making a similar impact in the way that RJ Mickens did in his first season? Yeah, I could see something vaguely similar to that. Now, let's not forget, as Dan alluded to, RJ Mickens, you had Derwin James, RJ Mickens, and Tony Jefferson, 3 Chargers players that ended up in the top 30 for coverage among safeties. And if we really want to blow this up as a whole to say 2 years ago when Chris O'Leary was the safeties coach, that Chargers safeties group was ranked 3rd overall across the entire league. Not bad. Not bad in terms of total stats for a safety group. You think, okay, that's a pretty high bar to reach. Chris O'Leary takes the defensive coordinator position over at Western Michigan, so Adam Fuller comes in to replace him. And what does he do? Chargers safety group in 2025 finishes first. It's pretty damn good. And we have to remember, and this is always what's going to get me when you think about this type of thing, Tony Jefferson was still not part of the final 53-man roster by the time that we got done with training camp last year. Remember, he was added later, which is nuts. And when we're talking about how loaded this safety group is, again, look at this. Derwin James, Tony Jefferson, RJ Mickens, Elijah Molden, Genesis Smith. Dan and I had talked about it kind of during our pseudo roster projection, and this became like a big conversation piece because who we're going to leave out, especially like Kendall Williamson, who was a key special teamer for you last year. I honestly think it's going to come down to him being the odd man out because do I see them keeping 5 safeties by the time that we get to the end of August? I do. And it being James, Jefferson, Mickens, Molden, and Smith. So to centralize around Genesis Smith, and I've said this ever since he was drafted, I feel similar in the way because of how he plays that it reminds you what it was like when the Chargers selected Nasir Adderley, because you wanted to pair the strong safety play of Derwin James with a center fielder the way that Nasir Adderley played the game. Although you look at Genesis Smith, and I think that the production and the level of competition that he played in a similar type of fashion, there was much better output. So you once again have a true center fielder, free safety that, yes, does he have some things to work on? 100%. But do I think that you're going to be able to find some packages for him to rotate in this type of a secondary with Adam Fuller and Steve Klinkscale as your defensive backs coach? Oh, 100% you do.
So it kind of boils down to me is if Genesis Smith is going to have in impact. One, I think he's going to have to play special teams damn well. And two, like the aces that Ryan Ficken are going to be, that's going to be like relying on, are going to be different this year. Because like Kendall Williamson was a core special teamer, one of the favorites. We haven't even talked about like the Marlowe Wax. We haven't talked about the Delshon Phillips, but like Marlowe Wax may not make this team. Dean Leonard may not make this team. So who are the special teams guys that are going to stick? But again,
are you asking me or are you posing that question to the chat?
I'm kind of just posing that question. Like you got to, like, as much as you want to just say wholeheartedly, yeah, he's in. Like there's a flip side to that. And looking back at that, at the safety group, again, impact. How much opportunity is he going to have when Molden, Jefferson, Mickens, James are not there? James, okay, technically you can say that he plays like the nickel slot, fine. But like the DBs in this group are sick if we're just expanding out. I didn't even talk to Avery Smith as a corner. Eric Rogers was a beast in preseason for got hurt. And you talked about Dante Jackson lockdown. Already still on Cam Hart. People are already sweating having to re-sign them. So as much as I want to be bullish on Genesis Smith, this isn't against the player. I just don't know how much opportunity he's going to get. If his opportunity is there, I think he'll take advantage of it. But I will say, I might eat my words though, because you already heard Jim Harbaugh talk about it on like Mic'd Up or whatever it was, where he's seeing Genesis Smith making flashes.
This conversation is not meant to say like, oh, starter level impact, huge right out of the gate. We're talking about the trend that we have seen with rookie classes with the Chargers under Joe Ortiz over the last 2 years, now heading into a third. The fact that you've had 11 guys in the last 2 years make impacts for you, whether they're big or small, it doesn't matter. You used to have draft classes where nobody made impacts or there were busts. It's so good to be on this side of the pillow. Let's just chalk it up to that.
That's true.
So okay, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I mean. So like, are we saying that like RJ Mickens, would you consider him an impactful player, like checkbox success?
Yes.
Okay, but I'm saying like, but if you look at the stat sheet
in a rotational role last year, again, stat sheet aside, is it going to stack up?
That's I want to make sure that we're clear. We're not talking about like filling the stat sheet with 5 picks, 3 forced fumbles. We're talking about like just throughout the season. Will
for RJ Mickens to end up as number 17 in the top 30 for safety coverage last year as a rotational safety? I don't care which way you want to chalk it up for a guy who was drafted in the 6th round. And truthfully, through a number of different people who felt this way about RJ Mickens when he was selected at that point in time, thought that the Chargers got a steal. And then look at the impact he makes. It is a combination of benefiting the rookies themselves with who they get to share the field with, the locker room with, the veteran presence of Derwin James and Tony Jefferson to build up guys like RJ Mickens and Genesis Smith in this case. The potential there is great. So I don't care if the impact is big, small, however you want to talk about it. One game here, one game there. You used to get nothing out of some of these guys. And the fact that you've gotten it out of 11 players over the last 2 years is fantastic. So for Genesis Smith, if you could tell me that he can have a similar impact in the way that RJ Mickens had during his rookie year, hell yeah, you'll take that. You've just strengthened up one of the toughest, strongest groups that you have on the roster. Sign me up.
So maybe that's, as we're kind of getting through this and rounding out, like I'm wondering if impact means, will they have enough of an impact on this season upcoming that they will be a key reason that they win games.
Yes.
So in that lens, Dennis Smith, in your opinion, will be the reason that this team wins games.
He'll be one of many. He'll be one of many.
But that's what I'm saying. But like, I just want to make sure we're clear. So
yes,
I would agree with that with Jake, and I think that's the same thing with Jake Slaughter. I think that's the same thing with Mesor, obviously, and I believe that's the same thing for Brennan Thompson. So
you got one more to talk about too.
Go ahead. The floor is yours, sir.
Right after Dennis Smith, and again, the continued trend that Joe Ortiz has shown with his selection of investing in the interior defensive line, which was something that was pretty much never done in the previous regime.
I love the picture you picked too. This is so good.
Because it was you couldn't get a better picture than that. You honestly just couldn't get a better picture than that, truly.
And now your picture's gone, by the way.
I don't know what the hell happened to my picture. Thank God my voice is still here.
There's only room for two of us, and this guy wins.
What is going on here with the system tonight? I have no idea.
There you are. Hi. Whoa.
There we go. Anyways, I couldn't pick a better picture than this for Nick Barrett. Truthfully, that's just, you talk about impact. Like, you talk about a guy that wants to make an impact. Look at your screen. Look at your screen right now. Again, going back to my point, the investment that Joe Ortiz has put into this interior defensive line over the last couple of years, you look at it starting with a Boygby, you look at it from the standpoint of Jamari Caldwell, and now going into Nick Barrett, who's, in my opinion, is, as far as the traits and what he's good at, it's very, very different from what you've seen with the likes of Caldwell and a Boygby, and how they can get off the ball, off the snap, and become like a premier pass rusher. Nick Barrett's kind of the opposite of that. And again, here's my camera just going to a completely different angle. What is happening here? Now I'm going to face you guys over here, because apparently this is what we talk about.
Dude, okay, real quick. While you figure that out, there's a thing I saw on Instagram where it was someone who was like on Omegle or whatever those sites are, and it was a guy who got paired up with this dude, and he was like talking to him, and then he had like 6 different camera angles, and he kept toggling, and there was like one that was on one side of the room, one was like out in the hallway, one was like outside his window looking in, and it was the funniest.
What the hell?
This is great. I like this side angle. This is good.
I haven't had the side angle in a long time, so I'm going to talk to everybody like this.
Look at that jawline. I like this.
I'm going to talk to everybody like this, even though it's terrible fucking quality on this camera over here. But I think someone actually had put it in the comments. My laptop is charging on me currently. But let me go back for the third time. Let me go back for a third time of what I was trying to say. Again, the investment that Joe Ortiz has put into this interior defensive line class, the strengths of Nick Barrett compared to Jamari Caldwell and a Boygby are obviously very, very different as far as what they're good at. Nick Barrett, though, is going to come in and clog the holes in the run game. Ridiculously powerful human being. Is he quick off the snap? No, he's not. But that's just never been his game. But you go back and you see his capabilities of moving people in a opposing offensive line when the ball is snapped just by sheer power alone and clogging up those running lanes. That's what Nick Barrett brings to the table. So again, this is essentially taking the role of Tito in this defense now. And I think that he's going to be very successful with it. And are we talking about some huge type of impact for a guy who was selected in the 5th round? No. But in terms of churning the bottom of that roster and being an impactful piece that I guarantee you Mike Elston, and here we go again, talking about that coaching staff again, Mike Elston is going to eventually work to get some rotation in. It's going to happen. You saw it with Justin Boygby during his rookie season, even more so of the breakout game that Boygby had last year. You saw the impact and the opportunities, even while they may be limited, of what Jamari Caldwell was able to do as a rotational type guy. Now Jamari Caldwell is essentially going to take on the role that's left from Deshaun Hand. Obviously, you bring in Dalvin Tomlinson to become more of a huge run stuffer in that defense. But Jamari Caldwell is going to be tasked with getting after the quarterback. Now the role of Tito, who is now jettisoned, that goes to Nick Barrett. And again, once you're churning the bottom of the roster, you're stacking that depth at interior defensive line, and I guarantee you Mike Elston is going to find ways for Nick Barrett to see opportunities in this defense.
I mean, again, this goes back to that discussion we had earlier. How much playing time is he going to have sitting behind Caldwell, Tart, Aboigbe, and Tomlinson? Like, he's 5th on the depth chart right now.
Don't care.
So, but I get back to like impact. How much?
Again,
I don't know how. I don't know how much opportunity he's going to have.
Dan, I'm not looking for the moon or asking the moon of Nick Barrett, but I'm telling you right now, for the way that the Chargers' defensive line is stacked up, Teair Tart obviously is a guy who can do both as it relates to getting after the quarterback and stopping the run. Dalvin Tomlinson is, kind of a wait and see, obviously coming off of a down year in 2025 for him, but you know what you're doing when you bring in a guy that's his size and what you expect him to do.
For sure.
Jamari Caldwell, we know what he's great at, and he's only going to get better at rounding out his games. Same thing goes for Justin Aboigbe. Remember, Aboigbe was known as a run stuffer coming out of Alabama. And he got some pass rush dudes, or he got some pass rush traits, excuse me. I think that it's going to be a similar type of trajectory for Nick Barrett. And I go back to this once again. Normally, I would not be as bullish for a player to get opportunities, even if they're limited, for a guy who was selected in the 5th round. But I look at what Mike Elston has done with two rookies thus far over the last 2 years. And that's where I'm putting a lot of my trust. One way or another, he's going to find a way to get Nick Barrett involved in this defense.
So these are the 5, and I see your question, James. These are the 5 that I think we had as the most likely to provide impact this season. Now, you'll notice we have not yet talked about Travis Burke. We have not yet talked about Alex Harkey or Logan Taylor or other UDFAs. Those guys could make an impact, but that would mean someone's getting hurt. Period. Is that likely? I mean, if we're talking about the Chargers, probably, I guess, right? Like, Travis Burke could end up being a big impact lifesaver for this team, but I don't know if it's likely or as likely as the others. Again, even if we just kept it at the 5, ending with Nick Barrett, Mesidor, Slaughter, Brennan Thompson, Genesis Smith, Nick Barrett. That's 5 selections you're feeling good about.
I'm feeling good about the fact that I got my camera working again. That's what I feel good about.
5 of 8? Like, if you hit 5 of 8, you're feeling great.
It's pretty damn good.
And the ones that you're not hitting on, technically, if the ones you're not hitting on are because they're a backup developmental lineman, sweet. So, 2024, 2025, 2026.
Wait, hold on a sec. I'm sorry. I got to stop you real quick, Dan. My camera goes haywire and Aether jumped back in here. Hello. Haven't seen you in months.
Baby! What's up, my boy?
Okay, continue, Dan.
No, but I mean, what? Is that 15 draft selections in 3 years?
If you hit on the 5 that we just talked about, that would be 3 drafts of 15 players that make an impact for you in year 1.
I mean, and again, if that many make it this year, I think this would be the biggest feather in the cap because of how deep this roster is to begin with this year. Like, you don't got holes everywhere. You're just trying to fill them with bodies, right? Like, that's not what's happening here. Like, Mesidor is edge 3. who was a first-round pick, which is
Don't care.
impressive.
Don't care.
Jake Slaughter is fighting for a guard position in the backup center. That's because of what they did in free agency. Brennan Thompson is fighting for like targets at this point. No, I think he will get them, but still. This year, if they get 5, we talked about them. If they get those 5, and you add those 5 to 6 Hampton, 7 Harris,
this 11,
8 Caldwell, 9 KLS, 10 Gadsden, 11 Mickens, 12 Joe Alt, 13 Lad McConkey, 14 Aboigby, 15 Tarheeb Still, 16 Cam Hart, 17 Kamani Vidal.
Yeah, there's three in there that to me are pending. It would be insane if you were able to get them to actually hit this year. So if you go back to say like Junior Colson, Kyle Kennard, and KLS, which I didn't count as an impact one later. I before that to me was still pending and waiting, but flashes, yes. Imagine if you get those 3 to make an impact for you on top of everything else that we've talked about,
or not. That's like 16 dudes. How many did I say? 16, 17?
It's pretty damn good.
How many years would you have had to go back through to find 17 draft selections that hit under Tom Telesco like consecutively?
You wouldn't. I don't even think that you would get to the double digits in a 10-year period.
10 year, I think you can do it. 3 years, that's tough sled. Not a chance. So, comment in here from James Wagner. You keep building deep and young through continuous drafting like Ortiz has. They will soon run out of room. The need for free agent vets. Now, the flip side to it, the unfortunate side of this business, I guess, but if you keep drafting, it doesn't matter. All these dudes are going to want to get paid. You can't keep them all. But if you keep churning and you keep hitting that 60, 70%, it won't matter. It won't matter. You can trade those dudes in year 4, year 5, year 6, 7, get a bunch of assets in return, nail it. Comp picks, whatever. Tom T was a G at drafting.
I
don't mean
drafting what?
I don't think he means like awesome, like slang G. I think he means like worse than F. I'm hoping that's what he means. I think. This was fun, Jake. Good idea. This is all coming to you live from Jake Hefner's brain. Anything else on this? We got some fun stuff in store. Some special guests upcoming. But Jake, anything else you want to tell the great friends?
No, I was curious just in case anybody else had their own opinions. I know we had Travis Burke that was mentioned in the chat. Anybody had any thoughts as far as other rookies, maybe guys that haven't broken out yet, as some of the players that we had mentioned that we're still kind of waiting on, or just overall expectations. Dan, take 5 minutes to let's just go rapid fire as many questions as we can for everybody that is in the chat watching right now. Any questions you have, fire them off as fast as you can. Dan and I will do our best to answer them. And feel free. It could be about football, training camp, rookies, your expectations for the new Spider-Man movie coming out. I don't care. What is it?
Okay. 5 minutes.
Fire away.
First question from Sherry Glenn. I'm not going to try. Who will go on the practice squad and not get picked up on waivers?
And not get picked up on waivers?
Oh, that's a lot.
It's tough to tell that right now. It's really tough to tell that right now.
That's a lot.
I wish I had a crystal ball.
Damn well better not be Tony Jefferson.
Forward.
Sure better not.
He should be abstained from that possibility happening to him ever again. Let's just be clear on that. We should not be seeing Tony Jefferson find his way to waivers after the final 53-man cut down in any circumstance. And if it does, we riot.
A theory of the question: can Omarion Hampton win Offensive Player of the Year and Herbie get MVP? No, because if Herbie gets MVP, he's also getting Offensive Player of the Year.
Again, it's one football. Do I think that you're going to see just a huge jump for Omarion Hampton in this particular system? Yes, I do. Do I think that this run game overall for the Chargers is definitely going to be more impactful than it was this year and the year before, honestly, when it was J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards? Yes, I do. Because Mike McDaniel has a plan. He wants to replicate the running game for this offense in a similar type of way that he did for Devon Achane in Miami, and look at the production that he was able to get out of Achane. He wants to do the same with a running back that's built for it. So big expectations for Omarion Hampton this season.
Beef Talaboy, would you trade for star cornerback Denzel Ward for the Browns? He's 29 years old and expensive. I feel like he's hedging his bet and playing his hand by telling us he's 29 years old and expensive.
But he's expensive. Does it sound like a move that Ortiz would do right now?
No.
Just ask yourself that. Just ask yourself. I'm not even trying to put like words in your mouth, but just think about that for a second. Now, remember, Denzel Ward's also said that he would prefer to stay with the Browns, which I jokingly said, I was like, well, this isn't like a Myles Garrett type of situation, who Myles Garrett for years has been trying to get out of Cleveland. Denzel Ward wants to stay in Cleveland. Are they really going to cut him? Is he one of those guys who can be a surprise cut by the end of August? Possibly. And maybe if that ends up happening, then that changes things a little bit, because he'll be highly coveted for sure. But right now, for the fact that the Chargers haven't done a move like that for the cornerback position, I think is telling.
Didn't have this on my bingo card for today. Spider-Man Magic the Gathering cards?
I don't have those. I actually never had any of the Magic of the Gathering cards. But I do have my tickets to Spider-Man Brand New Day.
Attaboy. I will say, I was walking in a Target like 3 days ago, maybe a week ago. There was like this huge line outside the exit door with like 50 people. And I was walking in with my daughter, and I was like, what the heck is this? And it was like a huge thing for like Pokemon that just came out, cards. There's a line at like 6 p.m. I was like, what is happening? Clearly I missed out. Let's see. Take 87, Chris. Will tight ends score more touchdowns than the receivers? That's
Dan would love this question, honestly. Dan should love this question because of Oronde Gadsden.
Yeah. Well, and Njoku.
If your tight end group is scoring more than your wide receivers in this particular offense, number one, I'd ask you, what the fuck are your wide receivers doing? Are they not getting open the way that they were not 2 years ago when nobody could beat man coverage other than Ladd McConkey? And so you're just forced to throw it to the open man, which just so happened to be the tight ends. I mean, it's not a terrible problem to have. I just don't see it to shift that much. I'd like for it to be on an even keel. Here's the best way I could say it. The tight end group of 2026 will make a much bigger impact than both of the tight end groups for the Chargers in the last 2 years combined. That is an extremely low bar to put out there.
Well, Gadsden was there last year.
I understand that, but it was Will Dissly and...
So collectively, okay.
Collectively, yes. Again, it's a low bar to put out there, but they will jump
Imagine if
that
Gadsden
bar
wasn't there last
dramatically.
year. Imagine if Gadsden wasn't selected last year. Like what that tight end would look like. Oof. I don't want to. This is fun. All right. I think we got up to date. James says, I hate to say it, but please let us punch in with the run game. I don't hate to say it. I'd love to say it. I'd love to see it. Yes. Yes, please. I'd love to see like 20 touchdowns from Omarion Hampton. Yeah.
20 touchdowns from Oronde Gadsden in year 2. Tell me where you get him in fantasy. For where
20 for Oronde,
like that.
20 for Omarion, 65 for Justin, 15 for Ladd.
Sounds like an Aether prediction all of a sudden.
17-0, baby.
That's right.
Oh, man. Well, it is July 2nd. We are so ready for some damn football, honestly. But before we get to that, we get 4th of July weekend. We're grilling. Hopefully, you're barbecuing somewhere, going somewhere that has barbecue on the going crazy. Jake, what are you doing for 4th of July? Are you cooking anything on the grill? Traeger?
Steak.
Yeah.
Steak.
Now, are you more like a ribeye steak kind of guy? Are you like a filet? Are you doing like a T-bone, New York strip? Like, where are you? What's your go-to?
I believe it's actually going to be steak, and it might be short ribs along with it. Yeah.
I've actually never done short ribs on the grill.
Yeah. So, but to answer your original question, I'm more of a filet guy. More of a filet.
Really?
Yes, that's me.
Okay. I usually go either New York or ribeye. That's my thing. And a Corona. Yes. I don't think he needs that kind of Corona. Well, I'm excited. Great weekend, great time. This is a great episode. You guys were awesome. Shout out to all of you crazies who are in this with us. It is July 2nd. We are in the dark days, but we are oh so close to training camp. Looking forward to seeing you out there, hopefully. Jake and I are doing our best to get out there this training camp, so stay tuned on those updates as well.
We got a target date in mind.
Jake Hefner, would you like to do the honors and take us home?
Why? I do it every time.
I know. Do it again.
I'm kidding. No, it's Dan likes to call it the dark days of the football season. It is that right now because we don't get training camp for another 3 weeks, but we're almost there. There is some form of football that's currently on it with the World Cup. Obviously, great win by last night by the USA. Fantastic.
Bullshit red card.
We're going to try to fill this void in between now and training camp the best that we can. Because Dan and I have some good ideas that we want to bring forth to you guys as it relates to content between now and then, and as well as Dan had teased earlier, some special guests in the works as well. So keep an eye out for that. We'll also announce the target date that we're planning on going out to training camp. Can't wait to see all of you that are able to make it out there. And again, appreciate everyone that comes into the chat just to talk Chargers football because it's what makes this fun. So appreciate you all once again. Love the live shows. Love interacting with you guys. See you next time on Chargers Unleashed.